if I'm buying HEX right now, I don't care what anybody says. I'm buying HEX on Ethereum because it's lower, plain and simple. So,
yep.
Transitioning now to that stuff I was talking about, the Richard Heart ecosystem, the PulseChain ecosystem, the stuff that we really want to be holding right now for massive success this cycle. This is primarily what we're looking at. Taking a look at the overall prices. Thanks for pulling that up, Ewok. We've got Pulse just kind of still hanging out right at that SAC rate. We saw it rally up over the course of the last week. And again, you're still able to get what everybody waited 2 years for the same price right now for PulseChain. So you can go ahead and grab that. A lot of people did not get the chance to sacrifice for the Pulse token. So there you go. Its low was what? I think quad 478 or something so far. So
yeah,
it was about 20% below SAC rate. So we've got that sitting at SAC rate right now. PulseX, huge discount, 60% below SAC rate, 4 zeros and a 4 right now. I bought some literally right before we went on the air. And it is about 10% up off the lows. It was, guess it technically was 92% down back in ratio trading days, but we're not really counting that much. So it was 10% lower than this just very recently. We got HEX on PulseChain at 1.4 cents, HEX on Ethereum at 9.3 tenths of a penny. It did cross a penny a little bit earlier today. So it's been rallying nicely recently. And I think we are going to see it, beat the dead horse again and kind of trade on and off with HEX on PulseChain. But yeah, things looking pretty solid. We've seen a little bit of pumpage and hey, still plenty of time to buy this stuff at supremely suppressed prices. So before we get into what we were going to talk about with this, what are you kind of focusing on acquiring right now, Ewok, in this ecosystem? Are you still liquidity providing? What are your kind of main focuses in the PulseChain ecosystem right now?
Well, yeah, I am still providing liquidity for the PulseX pair because it is earning me incentive tokens. And I really think, this is the one that we want to be watching. It's interesting. I think it's bottomed out. We were up to like $83, I think, at one point with this coin. When it first launched, a lot of people did decide to dump it. We'll see how it plays out as far as governance goes later. If it's going to be used for fees or, who knows how it'll be used or incorporated. Maybe the single-sided PulseX staking will provide incentive. I don't know. It's going to be interesting how it's played out and how it's used. But it kind of has hit a bottom. It's kind of stayed pretty steady here at this $11-12 range. So I'm just, there for a while when I was getting major rewards early before, a lot of people started jumping in, I was making 70-80% APR and, making $1,500 to $2,000 a day in these tokens. But again, they were upwards of $70 or $80 a piece. So, that has diminished as well. But what I was doing with those returns is then turning around, using them and purchasing all the coins with it. I would take a little chunk, buy some PulseX, take a little chunk, buy some Pulse, buy some HEX, buy some pHEX. So I was buying all of these with the incentive. So it really wasn't, I don't want to say it was hurting the price. I wasn't dumping it for USD or anything like that.
Sure.
But I was pumping it all back into the system. So, that's still my play, but I've slowed down on doing that. And I'm more focused on just kind of seeing how many of these I can accumulate for now. And we'll see how that goes. But that's been my strategy. And are we going to talk about the new thing that kind of came out, the new toy?
We're going to. Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to give my thoughts on a couple things you said real quick. I agree with you on the incentive token. I think we're kind of seeing it, maybe not like bottom, but I think we've been seeing it kind of just hang out in that range. I saw Axis Alive on Twitter. Great chart skills, obviously, and a great follow. He was tweeting about that earlier too and saying that he thinks it's kind of rounding out towards a bottom here. So if you are, if you hold enough Pulse and PulseX primarily, which would be the main pool to provide liquidity for, definitely a good opportunity right now to start earning some of that ink token and really doing whatever you want with it at that point. You can't really blame people for putting it back into the ecosystem, but what was the other thing you just said? Oh, what I'm really focusing on right now too is just I'm just acquiring everything pretty much equally. As a matter of fact, really the only thing I haven't even bought at all is HEX on Pulse. That's the only thing that I haven't bought. And I imagine you might be the same way, Ewok, because it's I wanted to, like many people, I wanted to get my Pulse bags up. I already had a bevy of PulseX, so I slowed down on that some. But if I'm buying HEX right now, I don't care what anybody says. I'm buying HEX on Ethereum because it's lower, plain and
Right.
simple. So,
yep. And they both work the same way. We did look at the share rates and everything like that. If you want to go ahead and talk, I'll pull up, see what those are looking like.
Yeah. What you mean, just the spread between them right now, like the comparison
Yeah.
on? Yeah. When I saw earlier today, it was like at 40 or 50%. So it seems, and this would stand to reason. Oh, you're talking about the share rate, my bad. But as far as the price of HEX on each chain, I guess this would stand to reason. But like when the ecosystem goes down, you start to see the spread open up a little bit more and get to that 40, 50%. When everything's pumping, we've seen it go back to about 30% difference. We haven't seen it close more than about 25% so far. But again, we've talked about this before. Like when prices really starts going and when this shit really starts pumping, maybe in the second half of this year a little wee bit, I'm interested to see what eHEX versus pHEX does do. But yeah, take a look real quick at the share differences here. I'm interested to see that too.
So, yeah, the payout per T share isn't that far off. It's 0.03 difference. So you're not getting a major value right now. And it does cost a little bit more to get those. So it pretty much evens out. I would say they're pretty darn close as far as how many HEX that takes to get a T share, and then the payout per T share. This takes a little bit more HEX to do it, but you're getting a little bit more. So yeah, I mean, it's not as big of a difference as I thought it would be at this point, but we'll see as time goes on. Time is going to be the interesting thing. After a year, how does this look? After 6 months, how does this look? We're still only a month and a half in, and
Right.
I don't think it's had a chance to do a whole lot right now. We are staying pretty close. Even at these prices, they're still pretty close to parity. I wouldn't call them equal, but yeah, it's staying about as close as I thought it would. So I'm happy with where things are.